child's AP schedule looks impressive on paper, but it might be the reason they're getting rejected from colleges. I know that sounds backwards. You are doing what every responsible parent does, making sure your child takes challenging courses, stays competitive, builds a strong transcript. But here's the uncomfortable truth that most admissions experts will not tell you. Taking too many AP classes or the wrong AP classes can actually hurt your child's chances of admission. After working with over 500 students through the college admissions process, I've seen what actually happens when students overload on AP courses. These are the foundational courses that colleges expect to see their GPAs tank, their mental health just spiral. You're wasting your time, money, mental health, your energy, everything. Here's what to do instead. Every parent asks me, how many AP classes should my child take? And more importantly, I'll show you the strategic approach that top accepted students actually use, not the ones circulating on Reddit threads and parent Facebook groups. Here's what's at stake. Your child's transcript is one of the most important pieces of their college application. Admissions officers spend on average 8 to 15 minutes reviewing each application, and they're looking at the transcript rigor within the first 2 minutes. But here's the most parents don't realize. Colleges aren't just counting how many APs your child took. They're looking at how well your child performed in those APs, whether the choices made sense, and whether your child could handle the workload without falling apart. I've worked with brilliant students who took 8 AP classes junior year because they thought it would impress colleges, only to watch how their GPAs tank, their mental health just spiral, and their college essays suffer because they had no time or energy left for anything meaningful. And I've also worked with students who strategically took 3 or 4 well-chosen AP classes, earned A's, stayed involved in their extracurriculars, and got into schools like Cornell, Georgetown, and Duke. What's the difference? The difference is strategy over volume. By the end of this video, you'll know the exact AP load that positions your child competitively without burnout, which AP classes actually matter for your child's intended major, the single biggest mistakes parents make when planning AP schedules, and the framework I use with my own students to build balanced, strategic course load. Now let's get into it. Let's start with the biggest mistake I see most often, and it's the one that colleges actually penalize the students. Colleges would rather see your child get an A in a regular class than a C in an AP. And here is why that changes everything. According to 2023 survey of National Association of College Admission Counseling, grades in college prep courses ranked as the #1 factor in admissions decision, ahead of test scores, essays, and recommendations. Rigor matters, but performance in rigorous courses matters even more. Here's the reality. AP classes require significantly more time and energy than standard level courses. The reading load is heavier. The pace is faster. The expectations, especially in writing and problem solving and independent study, are much higher. When your child takes too many APs, one of 2 things happen. Either their grades slip because they can't keep up with the workload, or they sacrifice sleep, extracurriculars, family time, and their mental health trying to maintain those grades. Both scenarios hurt their applications. I had a student, let's call her Sarah, who took 6 AP classes her junior year because her guidance counselor said it would look good. By October, she was getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night. By December, her GPA had dropped from a 3.9 to a 3.6. She had to drop out of her school play, which was her passion, because she didn't have time to memorize lines. And when the application season came around, she had nothing meaningful to write about. Her essays were dull because she'd spent the entire year buried in her textbooks. Sarah didn't get into her top choice school, not because she wasn't smart enough, but because her transcript told a story of overload, declining performance, lack of depth outside of the classroom. Here's what admissions officers told me when I asked about cases like Sarah's. They said, we'd rather see a student excel in slightly less rigorous schedule than struggle in an overly ambitious one. We're looking for students who can manage their time, prioritize effectively, and still engage meaningfully in their community. This isn't about lowering the bar. It's about understanding what selective colleges actually value. They want to see your child and they want to see what they can handle, the challenge. But they also want to see that your child has good judgment, that they know how to assess their own capacity, make smart decisions, and sustain excellence over a long period of time. A transcript full of AP classes with mediocre grades does not communicate readiness for college. It communicates poor planning. Bottom line, if your child cannot confidently earn an A or a B in an AP class, they shouldn't take it. Colleges value performance and balance over sheer volume. So if more isn't always better, how many AP classes should your child take? Here's the honest answer. There is no magic number of AP classes that gets your child into college, but there is a range that works. And most students are way outside of it. The uncomfortable truth is this: there is no universal right number of AP classes. The right number is the one that your child can manage successfully while still having time for extracurriculars, family, rest, and yes, very important, sleep. That said, after working with hundreds of students and analyzing their admissions outcomes, I've found a balanced guideline that works for most students. In grades 9 through 10, 2 to 4 AP classes total. Grades 11 and 12, 4 to 7 AP classes total. This range provides enough academic challenge to show colleges your child is serious about learning without tipping into chronic stress and burnout. But here's the key. This is a guideline, not a rule. The actual number depends entirely on your child, their strengths, their goals, their school's offerings, and their capacity. I always tell parents, if you are unsure whether your child can handle an AP course, talk to their current teacher in that subject, not the guidance counselor, not the parent Facebook group, the actual teacher who knows your child's work habits, teacher who knows their strengths and weaknesses. They know the expectations of the AP curriculum better than anyone else. And it's their input that is often more valuable than any generic recommendation that you're going to get elsewhere. One more critical factor: make sure your child is meeting all graduation requirements first. I've seen students load up on APs only to realize in their senior year that they're missing a requirement course, and then they have to scramble. Always work with your counselor to confirm that graduation requirements are covered before adding AP classes to the schedule. Think about it this way: college admissions isn't a game who can survive the most pain. It's about demonstrating readiness, curiosity, and the ability to thrive in demonstrating environment. Students who take 5 AP classes, earn strong grades, stays involved in meaningful activities, and writes thoughtful essays will always be more compelling than a student who takes 9 AP classes, burns out halfway through the junior year. And at the end of the day, the goal isn't to impress everyone with the number. It is to build a schedule that challenges your child appropriately, allows them to perform well, and to leave room for extracurriculars and personal growth that make them a compelling applicant. Now, let's talk about which AP classes your child should take, because this is where strategy matters most. If your child is taking AP classes that have nothing to do with their intended major, you're wasting your time, money, mental health, your energy, everything. Here's what to do instead. A study in 2022 published in Research in Higher Education found that students who took AP courses aligned with their college major were 23% more likely to persist in that major through graduation and reported higher academic confidence. Admissions officers notice this alignment and signals genuine interest, not just resume padding. Here's the strategy I use with my students. Take 2 to 3 AP classes that align with your intended college major, assuming you feel confident you can do well in them. This alignment does two things. First, it shows admissions officers that your child has academic focus, genuine interest in that field. And second, it gives your child something meaningful to talk about in college essays, especially the why that major essay prompt that so many schools ask. If your child is interested in engineering or another STEM field, they should prioritize courses like AP Calculus, AP Physics, or AP Computer Science. These are the foundational courses that colleges expect to see, and they signal readiness for college-level STEM work. If your child is leaning toward liberal arts or the social sciences, they may focus on AP US History, AP World History, AP English Language, or AP English Literature. These courses develop critical thinking, writing, analytical skills that humanities programs really value. I had a student, let's call him James, who wanted to study political science. Instead of taking every AP offered at his school, he focused his schedule on AP US Government, AP US History, and AP English Language. He earned A's in all three. He used his understanding of political system to launch a voter registration initiative at his school. And he wrote a compelling essay about how his AP Gov class changed his perspective on civic engagement. He got into Georgetown School of Foreign Service. Compare that to students who take AP classes randomly. AP Bio, because their friend is in it. AP Art History, because it sounds easy, with no connection to their goals. Admissions officers see right through that. It reads as a box checking, not intellectual curiosity. Now, one caveat. This does not mean your child should only take APs in one subject area. Colleges still want to see that your child is well-rounded and can handle different types of academic challenges. But the majority of their AP load should align with their interests and intended major. And if your child doesn't know what they want to study yet, that's okay. Focus on building a strong foundation in core subjects, math, science, English, history, and avoid overloading niche APs that won't serve them either way. Here's what it looks like in practice. Let's say your child thinks they might want to study biology or pre-med. A strategic AP schedule might include AP Bio, AP Chem, AP Calculus, and AP English Language. That's 4 APs that directly support their academic interests and demonstrate readiness for rigorous STEM program. Contrast that with a student who takes AP Bio, AP Spanish, AP Art History, AP Stats, AP Environmental Science, AP Psychology. That's 6 APs, more classes, but no clear focus. It looks scattered. It doesn't tell a story. When admissions officers review your child's transcript, they're looking for coherence. They want to understand who your child is academically and what drives their intellectual curiosity. A focused AP schedule that aligns with your child's major creates that narrative. A scattered AP schedule doesn't. Let me show you what happens when families don't approach AP planning strategically, because I see that play out every year. I watched a straight A student get rejected from her dream school because of her AP schedule. Here's what went wrong. Story number 1. I worked with a student, let's call her Emily. She took 7 AP classes her junior year because her high school had a culture of more is better. Emily was a straight A student before her junior year. By midterms, she was just drowning. She ended up with 2 Bs and a C+ in AP Chem. Her GPA dropped. Her college essay was generic because she had no time to reflect or revise. And when she applied to schools like UVA and UNC, she was rejected. Not because she wasn't capable, but because her transcript told a story of overreach and declining performance. Story number 2, let's call him David, who took 4 AP classes total high school. But those 4 APs were perfectly aligned with his interest and environment. AP Environmental Science, AP Biology, AP Calculus AB, and AP English Language. He earned A's in all of them. He had time to intern at a local conservation nonprofit. He started a recycling initiative at his school. He wrote a really powerful essay about his connection to nature. He got into Cornell's College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. What's the difference? Emily chased a number. David followed a strategy. And here's the part that really breaks my heart. Emily's mom later told me, "I thought we were doing everything right. Everyone said more APs meant better chances. I didn't know we were supposed to think about it differently." And that's exactly why I'm making this video. Because the narrative out there on TikTok, on Reddit, parent forums, is what more is always better. But the families who get the results, they know the strategic planning is better than better is more. So let me be clear. I'm not saying your child should avoid the challenge. I'm saying that challenge without strategy is just stress. And stress without purpose does not get your child into college. It burns them out before they even get there. What Emily needed wasn't permission to take fewer APs. She needed someone to help her think critically about which APs would serve her goals, which ones she could handle, and how to build a schedule that left room for activities and experiences that would make her application compelling. That's what I do with my students. We don't just plan courses. We plan a 4-year story. And that story is what gets them admitted. Before your child signs up for AP classes next year, I want you to ask these 3 questions. If you can't answer yes to all 3 of these questions, your child should not take that AP class. Question 1, can my child realistically earn an A or a B in this class? If the answer is maybe or I hope so, that's a red flag. Talk to their current teacher, get an honest assessment. The teacher expresses concern, listen to them. A, B plus in an honors class is a better than a C in an AP class. Question 2, does this AP class align with my child's intended major or an academic interest? If your child wants to study business and they're taking AP art history just to add another AP to their transcript, that's not strategic. That's padding. And colleges see through it. Question 3, will my child still have time for extracurriculars, family, and sleep if they take this AP class? If the answer is no, the class isn't worth it. Admissions officers want to see well-rounded students who are engaged in their communities, not burnt out teenagers who spent 4 years glued to their desk. I use these 3 questions with every single one of my students during course selection. And I can tell you from experience, the families who pause and think strategically about these questions end up with better outcomes than families who just sign up for every AP class available. Here's the reality. Your child's AP schedule should support their growth, not define their worth or dominate their life. A thoughtful, balanced course load that allows them to learn deeply, stay healthy, and remain engaged outside of the classroom will always be more compelling than chasing a number. This is about setting your child up for success, not just college admissions, but in college itself. Because here's what nobody talks about. If your child barely survives high school because they're overloaded on APs, what do you think is going to happen to them when they get to college? And they're overloaded even more and work is even more intense. The habit your child builds now, the time management, the self-awareness, the knowing when to ask for help, those are the habits that will carry them through college and beyond. So when you're sitting down with your child to plan next year's schedule, don't just think about what looks good on paper. Think about what will help your child grow, think about how they will perform, and think about what will build a story worth telling. If you're sitting here thinking, okay, this all makes sense, but how do I actually build a strategic 4-year plan for my child? How do I know which APs make sense for their goals? And how do I make sure they're not missing something important? That's exactly where I come in. I work one-on-one with families to build customized college admissions roadmaps that take the guesswork out of the course selection, test prep, extracurriculars, and essay strategy. My students don't just get into college, they get into the right colleges for them without the burnout, without stressing in the process. If you want to learn more about how we can work together, check out the link in the description. Head to my website. I offer a free 45-minute consultation where we'll talk about your child's goals, and I'll give you a clear sense of what a strategic plan may look like for your family. Now, let's recap what we covered today. More APs does not always mean better chances. Colleges care more about performance and rigorous courses than sheer volume. If your child cannot confidently earn an A or a B in an AP class, they should not take it. There's no magic number, but there is a range: 1 to 3 APs in grades 9 through 10, 4 to 7 APs total in grades 11 through 12. That's a solid guideline, but not the actual number. That your actual number depends on your child's strengths, goals, and capacity. Strategic alignment matters. Focus on 2 to 3 AP classes that connect to your child's intended major. This signals genuine interest and gives them something meaningful to discuss in essays and interviews. And before adding another AP, ask 3 questions. Can my child earn an A or a B? Does it align with their goals? Will they still have time for life outside of academics? If you're wondering, okay, what about test scores? How do SAT and ACT scores factor into all of this? That's exactly what I'm covering in my next video. In the meantime, subscribe to my channel, follow me on social media, and attend my live webinars to get more free information about college admissions and planning. See you soon.